this day. Thank you for this day. Just be here with us, Father. We don't want to hear from me. These are not my words. These are your words. You're teaching us today. We just want to love each other well. So show us what that looks like for each one of us. And we just thank you for the opportunity to be gathered around this lunch hour together. In Jesus' name, amen. So for me, a good place to start is maybe a foundation here for loving your people well, which is, God created everything around us. And he did that really with a command-oriented language. Let there be light, he said. He commanded that with his voice. And then it came to us. And he said, let us make man in our image. And that is different language. That's clearly something different. God has handmade us. We are handcrafted even. And he loves us. If you've ever handcrafted something, then you know how much you love that. Maybe you've had a baby. When you have a baby, you know how much you love that baby. And God really loves us deeply, and we are the most precious thing in this creation. It's all amazing creation, but we are the most precious. You and I are his favorite thing in his creation, and that's compelling and inspiring and encouraging for me. But it also reminds me that that's true of the other people around me. They're his people. They're not my people. The people that God sends to me around me, either under my leadership or just nearby, they don't belong to me. Moses said this. David said this. Solomon prayed, Lord, would you help me lead these people? Would you help me govern these people? They're yours. Jesus said it. I didn't lose any of your people that you sent to me. And so for me, that's a sobering thing. The first time the weight of that settled on me, that, man, these aren't my people. These are your people, Lord. And so I should handle them with care. And so what does that look like generally? And I'll tell you, the first thing is I can't really love or care about people as much as I should if I don't know them. Do you really know the people that are around you? And leaders, business owners, do you really know the people? We can spend a lot of time working together and do a lot of stuff and just not know a dang thing about each other. Do you know what really inspires the people that work with you or for you? Do you know what they dream about, what they do on the weekends? Their family members' names? Are we engaged with them really personally in that way? Have we really taken the energy and effort to get to know them? And I'm just always struck by the fact that when we start doing that, amazing things are going to happen. You ever watch Undercover Boss, where a big boss goes, out of the office and into the field and meets the people that are doing all the work and discovers, wow, this is a real person with real stuff going on, and they're not a name on a spreadsheet anymore. It just changes everything about the way they think about them and about the way they engage with them, and honestly, the way they care about them. And same thing on a vision trip or a mission trip. If you've ever gone overseas to Africa, you get to know these people and it changes everything. And so could we do that right here in the middle of our work, in the middle of our life with people? It's true that friendships, you're going to have coffee with a friend and you're going to talk about everything and you're going to get to know them. And we have a tool in our business that I want to share with you called a one-on-one. It's not something that everybody has to do, or everybody has to do it exactly the same way, but we want leaders in our enterprise to really know their people. And there's only one way to do that. You got to make room for it. You got to create a weekly rhythm of meeting with people. And each person that I'm leading, I meet with them every week. And what I want to know is, what are you thinking about? How you doing? This is not, just business or just personal. It's whatever they want to talk about. It's my desire to get to know them so that I can help them, so that I I'm not trying to be nosy and I'm not going to know everything. It's not about that, but it is about something happens in me and I will begin to care and love someone the more I get to know them. And that is a very important part of this. Do you know the people around you and know the people that you're meeting really well? Because the next part of that is I want to help them grow. Specifically if I'm leading them, and really the same is true even if I'm just friends with them or and influencing them. I want to help them be the best they can be. Early in my leadership, leading people, I wanted people to grow, but I confess, I had an agenda. I wanted them to be able to give the organization their best, and I wanted to grow them for really, let's say it like it is, for my purposes. And God began to deal with me on that point. He invited me to stop thinking like that, to grow them up for their benefit. In fact, specifically to develop them for their highest and best use for God's purposes. I'll never forget when I really learned this lesson in a big way. It's probably been, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. James was on my leadership team. He was a CFO, been with us for 10 years at the time. And he came to me one day and said, Rick, I think the Lord's inviting me to start my own business. And okay, business owners, be honest, you probably had a little check in the moment, and I didn't tell. I was like, oh, the first thing I thought was, wow, I'm honored that he would have the courage and that we have enough relationship that he would tell me that. That's a tough thing to tell your boss that you're thinking about another business, but also instantly, if I'm totally honest, a little, the competitive marketplace business guy in me sort of, went up. And then I said, well, what kind of business, James? And he said, well, a home building business. And then, my flesh especially clicked up a notch. I mean, that's the business we were in, and I said, well, where? And he said, right here in Lubbock. And again, all of my competitiveness and my, I'm just a man and a leader, and that all just kind of, alarms going off. And then immediately I remember the Lord saying to me, this is James, whom you love. He came to us from the restaurant business, and everything he knew about the building business, he learned from us, a lot of it from me. And so I had a share in this amazing growth that he'd had. And now he was going to go out and establish a business. And I need to be excited about that. And instantly I was. And it totally pushed out all the other things. And I remembered what a blessing it is to help someone go somewhere, even if they leave. And the rest of our team is going to take a note from that. I mean, if I'd been competitive or angry about that, the rest of the team was going to get in line behind me. But instead I said, hey, this is James, and I'm excited for him, and we should be excited for him. And the last day he was with us, our whole management team gathered around him, prayed for him, and blessed him, and sent him to his new business with our blessing. And I can't emphasize enough how much power there was in that, some kind of release. We were excited for him that he was going to do that, and nobody was thinking we're losing out, or, God is my provider, not the marketplace. And God has enough for us and for James. And over the next years, and James and I have remained friends, and I've gotten to walk with him and help him, not for my benefit, but for his benefit. And that is the way we should be. We've got to help people realize their highest potential for God's purposes, not for our own. And we got to expect that we're going to raise some people up or help some people get to the next thing, and we're not going to benefit from that, other than the joy of having a share in that. And there is much joy in that. One of the things that I think is really important about really loving people well. And true love means that we're going to tell the truth to people. Who needs a friend that just tells you what you want to hear? You want a friend that really helps you think about how to be better. I'm just always blown away by somebody who supports a friend when they're in the middle of something they shouldn't be doing. And instead of gently and carefully helping them find the right pathway to the right thing. And I think sometimes we think that loving people well means that we don't tell them the truth. There's a lot of grace. We don't want to go into that. Or the flip side of that, we tell them too much truth or in too harsh of a way. And so I want to contrast that, maybe put some words to that. And I like to think of the truth is so important, but let's do it in a developmental way instead of a judgmental way. This is a powerful distinction here. A developmental way says, I want to build you up. I want to call you up. I want to help you be better. And I'm excited for you to get around or over or through whatever this obstacle is, and be better on the other side of it. I'm for you. Judgment or a judgmental approach is, well, you suck. This is not good. It crushes, it tears down, it closes off people. And that truth is important, but we gotta shift our own mind and our heart and the way we communicate it become developmental, right? We had a little party with a bunch of kids over at the pool a few weeks ago, and as it's going to be, kids running around, and you find yourself saying, "Stop doing that! Don't do that!" And even myself, and then my little granddaughter Naomi does something, and instead I go over to her and kneel down and look into her eyes and say, "Naomi, if you want to have friends, you got to be a good friend. You got to share. Don't shoot everybody in the face with the water gun constantly. You wouldn't want that, right?" And she said, "No, I wouldn't." I said, "So if you want them to be excited about you and be your friend, then you got to be a good friend." And that was really good developmental feedback. And I went back and sat on my chair and I thought, well, why did I say stop to those other kids and say that whole thing to her? And I realized it's because I really love her. And so I need to be developmental. And then I thought, well, actually, I need to be developmental with everyone. So this is kind of a silly example for us parents or grandparents, but we don't do this very well with our friends or people that we're leading at times. We're going to do that well with people we love. We should do it with the people that are around us and really love them well. God is not going to hold us accountable to the stuff that we did. He's going to hold us accountable to the people that we love and how well we love them. I believe that. And that's a critical distinction here. You've got to be developmental in delivering that truth, not judgmental. And that's a barrier sometimes for us. Another barrier or obstacle that I want to talk about for a minute here that is pretty powerful, something that the Lord has done recently in my life. And it is that forgiveness, giving forgiveness and asking forgiveness is something we just aren't very good at. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2021. In October, I got the official diagnosis. And my doctor at the time, or still my doctor, amazing guy, at one point said, "Rick, do you think that there's some unforgiveness in your heart? Unforgiveness can be a barrier to healing." And we carry it around. I hadn't really thought of that very much. And as I was thinking about that, my mind went back to April of that year. That was in October of 21. My mind went back to April of that year when I'd gotten a text from a friend. And that text came before I knew about cancer. And his text early in the morning said, "Rick, I was praying for you today." And out of the blue, I started getting this picture in my mind of a tree stump cut off, but not dug up. And he said, I asked the Lord, is that for Rick or for me, or what is that? And he said, the Lord said, no, it's for Rick. And he said, well, what is the message you have for Rick? And in his text, he said that the message for me was that the Lord was going to gently walk with me while I dug up some things that I had cut off, but not completely removed. And that was going to purify me and sanctify me for the next season of my life. Now, at the time, that was powerful, but I didn't know what it meant exactly. But on that October day, standing there at my doctor, I realized that text was directly related to this forgiveness thing, and that's what God was talking about. I have prided myself on, I don't hold grudges. I cut things off and move on. And I just realized that I didn't dig them up completely. In that October, November, December time frame of 21, I was really getting sick from the cancer. I had a lot of jaundice. My whole body turned yellow and I was itching all over, and I just didn't get much sleep for a couple of months, a couple of hours a night of sleep. And so I just started asking the Lord about, who do I have unforgiveness for? There's some people, and he immediately started bringing faces to my mind. The early faces, I was like, well, yeah, I do have some unforgiveness, and I don't want that anymore. I want to forgive them completely. And so the Lord started talking to me about that. He reminded me that, to forgive somebody completely, I got to forget whatever they did, whatever was the offense. Can't even think about it anymore. God loves us. He's forgiven us completely, and he's forgotten the things that we've done. That's the way his forgiveness works. And could we forgive like that? And wow, I started thinking about that, trying to cast that out of my heart. And I found that I could do that. I could start forgiving people, and those faces would go away, but occasionally a face would come back to my mind. I'd say, well, Lord, I thought we talked about him or her last night. I feel like and that face would just come back and good. And I said, so you want me to, what, reach out to them and talk to them? And sure enough, he was inviting me to start having some meetings and making some phone calls. And I remember calling a guy that I had some unforgiveness for and telling him that I wouldn't forgive him completely, and I couldn't even remember. I was casting out of my heart anything about the circumstance, and I didn't have anything in my heart for him anymore except love. And I realized in that moment that it was true, and it had not been true a minute before, that it happened as I did it. As I gave him that unforgiveness, or gave him that forgiveness completely, it really happened in my heart. And I had a dream the next night of a backpack full of rocks, and I was taking those rocks out as I really let go of things and forgave people. Now, some of those phone calls where I need to call somebody and say, hey, I know that I hurt you, and I'm sorry. Would you please forgive me? And the Lord reminded me through that again, this is not contingent on what they say or do. This is for me. He's allowing me to take these rocks out of my backpack to shed this burden. And gosh, it was amazing. That guy that I called, he called me a couple of weeks later, and he said, wow, Rick, I have not been able to get that call out of my mind. In fact, it was so compelling that I realized I had a few phone calls to make it myself. And I just had to tell you that. And wow, the power, our Father who art in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses and forgive those who trespass against us. This is something straight from Jesus that is a critical thing. It's powerful. It's for us. It sets us free. It takes weight off of us. And it has the power, if the other person will allow it, to set them free. And it creates a way for us to truly love in a much deeper and different way. A funny extension of that was a couple of these. The Lord started just really giving me appointments. This was a crazy thing that happened for 2 or 3 months, where everywhere I'd go in a grocery store, there's somebody who I knew I had something with, and I'm like, Lord, I haven't seen them in a couple of years. Are you? Yes. And so I get to go over and have this conversation. Can't hide behind the apples. I got to go face it, ask for forgiveness, or give unconditional forgiveness in that moment. And it went on and on and on. These just out of the blue. I met somebody would be standing there, or I'd have an invitation to talk to somebody, or somebody would come to my mind. And it's, gosh, y'all, it turned out to be 20 or 30 people. I started keeping track of them, and this is almost a cleaning out of my heart. At one point I got a picture of a field of stumps cut off but not dug up, and that's a pretty hard field to navigate in. And I say all this to you, but even as I'm saying it, if someone is coming to your mind, pay attention to that. Is there someone you need to go reconcile with? Maybe someone's, and it's in the way of what God wants to do going forward. I remember a couple of these faces. I said, Lord, I really feel like I've forgiven them completely, but why do they keep coming up? He said, empty your pockets, Rick. And I'm like, okay, I pull up my pockets. I got a picture of me pulling up my pockets and see, Lord, and except that a little rock falls out onto the ground. And I'm like, oh, I guess there was a little something left there. And of late, it translates into going forward. It's one thing to forgive and ask forgiveness in arrears. It's another thing to stay in that condition as you go. Don't pick up offenses. I'm maybe the worst driving. Somebody cuts me off or does this, and I get talking to them. They can't hear me. Maybe you're like this too. And I've gotten in the habit of saying, wow, Lord, I don't want to take that offense. In fact, I'm going to back up, give them room, and I forgive them right now. I cast out of my heart. This is true with meetings or any kind of encounters. I found myself reminding myself, even as I'm picking it up, nope, set that back down. I'm not going to pick up an offense there. I'm going to forgive them. I'm not ever going to let that even into my heart. Unforgiveness in your heart is fallow ground for the enemy to sow disease. You need to hear that. God didn't put this cancer in me, but maybe I made a deal with the devil when I agreed to take offenses and to take things the wrong way and not give forgiveness and not ask forgiveness. And I feel got clogged up with cut off stumps. Don't let that be you. This is a powerful way for us to embrace that we must love people. If this is in the way of that, I found that some of these people that I really thought had offended me irrevocably, how am I ever going to really love them? And I found myself in a place where I really do love them. I really can be in a relationship with them. And I never thought that was possible. But it is possible. You can set this stuff down. You can really love people well on the other side of that. Apologize for all the emotion, y'all, but this is really deep. I'll just tell you that this last point, I'll close with this. I remember distinctly in our business a time a few years ago when I knew the Lord was really working on me to make this transition, really loving people for their benefit, raising them up for their benefit and not my own. And I remember a conversation with Holly, and my wife, Holly, many of y'all probably know her. She is really good at this. She loves people well naturally. Sometimes I think she's made of love. And so she has had a strong impact on me in this area. I might say she's been working on me pretty good. The Lord's been using her to work on me pretty good over the years in this way. And I remember having a conversation with her about it. I said, I know what the Lord wants. He wants me to really deeply love these people. But what if the truth is that I don't? And she said, wow, I think that's going to be a problem. Maybe you need to ask the Lord to break your heart for these people. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting strategy. And together, we immediately, she and I together, I just prayed, Lord, I want to love these people that I lead well and deeply. Would you break my heart for them? Would you give me deep empathy and understanding? And listen, y'all, you better not pray that unless you're ready for it to happen. This is maybe God's favorite request. I mean, I think he loves any kind of request and he honors a lot of them. This maybe is one of his favorites when his son or daughter asks for this. Would you help me love your people deeper and better? Would you break my heart for them? I think the Lord says, yeah, I will. You got it. I'm going to give you that gift right now. And so I think this is something that we've got to aspire to and ask for. And listen, I'll just tell you, I got to pray this prayer more regularly than just once. I got to pray this prayer most days or frequently. Remind myself this is the way it should be. And every time I do, recommit to this. And I think that is, for me, been the most powerful component to this. It has changed me in that way drastically. So thank y'all for being here. And I think we're going to do some questions. Amanda?
Thank you, Rick. That was so good. You know, one of the things he said, I think that all of us can probably write on our heart is we'll be accountable, not for what we do, but for how we love people. So that was really powerful. Hey, if you came in late, we would love to take the rest of this time to do Q&A down at the bottom of the screen. There's a Q&A that you can type in questions. So we've already received a few. First question, Rick, that we'd love to hear your wisdom on. What are some practical ways that you loved your people in the early days of your business?
Well, the team directly around me and early on, we started getting together and doing things together outside of the work, and just getting to know them. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. Making it, just I got to get to know these people. Spend some time with them outside of work, and start asking them what they're passionate about, what their dreams are. Especially for us leaders, owners of businesses, it's probably true that you have people working for you, around you, that they want to go do something else. They're doing whatever they're doing, but their dream is to, maybe they're on your accounting team, but their dream is to be a pilot someday. And when you discover that, do you say, well, how can I help you get to that dream? That's really what we're talking about here. When I get to know people well, my desire is to help them go where they want to go, or where God wants them to go, not where I want them to go, or for my purposes. And I'm going to trust the Lord that He'll bring another accountant along if I help somebody find their way to what they really want to do. We found another CFO as we moved James out, and God provided, and it's, we gotta go get to know people, and we gotta, walking through our coffee shop, I see people, sitting at tables and everybody's on their phone. The art of just really talking with each other and getting to know each other is seemingly lost sometimes. what do you know about the person standing right there in front of you? And so I think you start there. You start with, Lord, break my heart for them, and you start to get to know people, and the rest will just, it'll come. It's going to start right away. It's a reminder. Love is one of those things. It's a hard thing to characterize. I love pizza. I love my wife, and I love God. Those are all kind of different. We got one love, and I think love in the marketplace starts with, do I really care about you for more than what you can do for me? I think that's a good place to start. Even, do I really care about my friends, not just, in passing, but really deeply? Do I really care about the people that I lead? And do I care enough to help them go where they want to go? I hope that answered that question well.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you, Rick. So we have quite a few more. If you have questions, keep asking them. Thank you, guys. The next question we have is, as a business leader, how do you make time in your schedule with all that you're in charge of to do these practical, loving your people things that you're saying?
Wow, that's a great question. I figured that question was coming. For me, a powerful transition was an understanding that the people that I lead, they are my mission. That the job that needs to be done is their mission. What if I thought of it like that? What if I realized that I want them to do the jobs and they are my job? That is a very different way to think about it. I think lots of times out there, the leader is kind of towing people along, and they're doing the job together. And I don't think that's wrong, but the more we can think of the things that need to be done as their job, and my job is to care for them, make sure they have everything they need, make sure they're healthy, and the way they're spending their time. One of the things I want is for people to go home, to read them louder. Don't stay connected. As I'm watching for people who are working too much or too hard, I need to find somebody else to bring in and help them, or they're struggling because they don't have everything they need. I want, as a leader, I want to shift from transactional to relational in my style. I want to be more focused on my relationship with them. What do they need? How can I help them do this job? More than, let's do this job together. How can I help you do this job? What do you need from me? And I'm going to focus on you. I'm watching out for you. This is going to take some rethinking and maybe some reorganization to pull that off, but it's worth it. If my business is going to be God's ministry, formerly known as my business, then it's going to be about His people. And I may invest dollars that I gave away previously to this cause or that cause. I'm going to invest them in our business for our people. I'm going to try to keep teams smaller so that the leader of that team can really get to know everybody. In our business, we like to think that the leader can really only lead in this way 5 or 6 people. If you're leading 10 or 12 people, you just can't really get to know them and really care for them as deeply as I think God wants us to. And so you're going to have to reorganize, and that's what that requires. And so over the years, that's what we do. When a team gets too big for a leader to really know and lead that team well, then we're going to reorganize. So that's how we think about that.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Rick. All right, several questions you answered in your last answer on that question. So way to go, Rick. Way to be prophetic on your answer. Next question we have is along the lines you hit on it just a moment ago. How do you balance the idea of maintaining high standards in your business while avoiding the transactional relationships?
Well, I'm going to walk with people as they do their job, right? And it's my job to make sure that that job is being done, not to do that job, to make sure that job is being done, and to make sure that it's done well and done the way it needs to be done. That the result, not so much in how. I mean, I need to give people room for the how to be a little different, but the result has to be what we need, right? And so I'm gonna walk with them in that way, and I'm gonna know how it's going and how their team is and what the result is, and I'm gonna coach as I go. That's something that I don't think people do very well. Sometimes we are inconsistent in our coaching or in our adjusting. If I'm gonna fly from Lubbock to Denver, we're playing, how many little minute adjustments am I gonna have to make to get there, to get from here to there? Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of little left and right turns, right? Those little adjustments, those little 1 degree corrections. Two people, if I'm walking along with somebody that I'm leading and we're not in relationship with enough frequency and proximity, and I'm not connected to that, and I'm not making little adjustments as we go, little 1 degree corrections as we go, then over even a short period of time, a month or two, we can get pretty far apart. So we want to build a rhythm of small 1 degree corrections as we go. They're casual. Hey, maybe we should try this, or do you know how that sounded, or that result is that exactly what we're looking for? Or we just need to make small, so we don't have to make big swings because we haven't been making those little adjustments. I remember interviewing somebody for a management role on our team a few years ago, and we were talking about this style of leadership, and I got a kick out of this leader that was trying to get a job and said, I meet with the people I lead twice a year, whether they need it or not. And I laughed and thought, how well would your relationship be going if you meet with your wife, once a year to talk through things, or once a month, or I mean, that's got to be a lot more frequent than that for that to be effective, right? I've got to be walking with you. And I mean, God went with Moses. He gave him a big job to drag all these Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land. But God went with him and guided him as he went along. And he didn't just send him. He didn't say, Moses, go get them and I'll meet you in the promised land. God went with him and guided him as they went along. And I think that's a clue for us about how this should be. They need our support and our presence and our encouragement. Good people that are treasured and cared about do good things, great things. That's my experience. When somebody is really cared for and cared about, they're going to care and do things well. And when they aren't, you're gonna help them find something else. You're gonna know, and you're gonna use truth. You're gonna lead with truth. This is what we need to do for this to continue, or I'm going to invite you to do something else. I mean, we got to do this as we go.
Really good. Thanks, Rick. And for some great marriage advice. Don't meet with your spouse twice a year. Good marriage advice there. Thank you. So on the lines of what you were just saying, we had someone ask, number one, just they really appreciate all this information and how great it is to hear. But can you talk about a specific way that God has manifested you loving people in your business, and maybe a story to go along with that?
Well, gosh, truth is, over the years, I've got 1,000 of those. I remember this has happened a few times where someone was just really struggling in their role, and I just realized that I wasn't closely connected to them enough. And I went in and said, what's going on? What's really going on? Doing that in a developmental way, as I talked about, not going and saying, this is not working. That's a that's a judgmental way for this to go. I haven't been walking with them as well, as closely as I should. They've been doing whatever they've been doing, and now we've come to a place where it's a mess. And now I'm in that judgmental moment. It's not working. You're not doing this. You can't do this. We're going to move on. And truth is, I haven't done my job as a leader. I haven't walked with them closely enough and made these coaching adjustments. I've got a friend in Kansas City, home builder, and I've been walking with him closely for a few years, and he had a man working for him that they thought, no, he's just not going to make this transition. We transition, he just can't make the transition. And he said, but I'm going to start talking to him and engaging with him in different ways. They initiated one-on-ones, and they started meeting weekly, and just in a hurry, in a month, after 3 or 4 of those, just all this stuff started coming out, and this employee started having a different view of things, a different attitude. And I remember a conversation with him. I wasn't talking to him frequently enough to hear about this, but he called me and said, man, I've been doing these one-on-ones now with Harry for about a month and a half, and I have a completely different view. This guy can do this job. I realized that it wasn't his fault, it was my fault. Is what the leader, my friend in the city, said. I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed that I wasn't leading him well enough. And I'm convicted that a lot of times operational failures are the leader's fault, not because job's not being done, but because they're not engaged with them and the job being done the right way. We got to go with these people. So, I mean, I can't say it enough. We find that they love having a one-on-one with their leader. Having that time to talk about how things are going, what's going on, is something that just doesn't happen in the marketplace. And everybody wants to know how they're doing. Where are we going? Do I get to go? I mean, that's fundamental truth. People join companies and causes, but they quit bosses. That's the truth. And so don't be a boss, be a leader, a relational developmental leader. And you won't believe what happens to the people and how much better they are than you thought they were going to be.
Thank you for that, Rick. Appreciate that. So in your opinion, is it more challenging to continue to show love as an organization grows, or is it easier since many have caught the vision?
No, it's harder. The bigger the crowd gets, the more difficult it is to do this. That's why, as I said earlier, you really got to break. As the organization grows, it's especially important to break up into smaller groups, to really organize that way. In 1995, Beaton Bow Homes was, like 12 of us. It was a small group. I had a couple of leaders, and we were engaged with each other every day and deeply. And, today with 350 or 375 employees, that's not as easy. But it's still, what we do is we just break it down into 50 of those little teams. And, my job is to lead those leaders who are leading those teams. And it's a cascading style, we call it, where I'm going to lead a small group, and each one of them is going to lead a small group, and each one of them is going to lead a small group, etc. And we're going to engage with our people deeply so that no one is left behind. That's the key. I can't personally have a relationship like that or a meeting like that with every single person, but someone can. Their leader can do that. And so my job is to make sure that that leader is strengthened and encouraged by me, so that they have encouragement and are full so that they can give that to the people they're leading.
Thank you, Rick. A lot more. So keep them coming, y'all. Great questions. Hey, this is such a good question. I think is on everybody's minds. Thanks for asking this. How do you handle one-on-ones with your team of the opposite sex?
It's certainly tricky. This is a big topic around here, and everywhere we talk about this is a big topic or a big concern. And it's fair and right to be concerned about this. We are going to have some boundaries that are a little different. Today, I lead 4 people, and one of those is a lady. And I have one-on-ones in my home with the guys, or in some cases in an office. And with her, we do it in a public setting. That's the first thing. That's respectful and appropriate for for me and for her. I have a good relationship, a very good relationship with her husband, and he knows that we do this, and she has a great relationship with my wife. And there's just some things that I might talk about with a man that I'm leading and that I'm not going to talk about with her. I'm going to have to defer that, and invite her to find someone else to talk to about that. It doesn't mean that I can't still know her and her family and her dreams and hopes and what's going on. I can. We can still have that, but I do have to have some boundaries, and we are careful about that. So you got, if you go down this road, the Lord will show you. That's, there was a time when we said, Lord, we gotta show us how to do this that way. And of course, Gina, the person I'm talking about here, has been leading in our company here for 14 or 15 years, whatever it is. And she's led lots of men over the years, and she's made it a point to get to know their wives and have a relationship with them. And we're going to do that in a public space, and we're going to be careful about boundaries. And so.
Thank you for insight on that. How do you practically care for your people outside of the workplace?
Well, personally, the people that I lead, I have really strong relationships with them, and we have hobbies, things that we do together. I consciously try to find something that we can do outside of work together. And so I have a real genuine personal relationship with the people I lead, in addition to the professional relationship that we have. And I know there are going to be people who say, man, if you have a personal relationship, that sure makes it hard to correct or even part company if such a thing were to happen. And, and I disagree. I think relationship trumps everything. We have a strong relationship that paves the way for developmental conversation. I mean, and it goes both ways. The people I lead, every one of them has come to me many times over the years with, hey, is that the right thing? They correct me. They guide me, and it goes both ways. But the relationship is the foundation of that and makes that work. I can't imagine doing this outside of strong relationship. I feel like that's where this can feel judgmental and cold and harsh. And yes, I have had to release good friends from our business. I sure have. People who I love and have deep relationship with. That makes it harder. It does in some ways, but I do my very best at this point to do that in such a way that we're going to maintain a relationship, if at all possible, beyond this. I do have good friends who don't work here anymore that either left or I let them go. And we are, not everybody's supposed to be here. And if we've done the right thing, sometimes it's seasons in somebody's life that prevents them from doing the job well. Sometimes they're just not qualified anymore for that role, or something changes and, we have to just do something different. But I can't imagine doing that outside of a relationship. So there you go.
All right. Thank you for that. Hey, we have 3 more questions. And you just started a great intro for this next question, Rick, with what you just answered. How do you love well in the middle of a disagreement when there doesn't seem like there can be an agreement?
Well, the first thing is, I gotta be collaborative, which means I've got to be open to the other opinion. And I might start with a really strong opinion and they have a strong opinion and we're going to come together. And if that gets to be really unhealthy, we try to take a break, step away from that. We might pray for the Lord to give us peace or favor in that. And, we're going to give that some time to rest. Ultimately, if it's a disagreement with somebody who's working directly for me, and I'm going to ask the Lord how important this is and we're just going to work through that, and we're going to have a posture of humility and collaboration. Everything doesn't have to be my way. And first thing I want to say is, Lord, I feel strongly entrenched in this, but do I need a different perspective? Is there something I need to? So I've started a prayer for somebody lots of times thinking, I'm going to pray for them. Lord, would you change their heart? Would you? And all of a sudden I realized the Lord said, hey, I want to change your heart. Your heart needs to change in this spot, in this moment. And that has happened a few times. And all of a sudden I have a different perspective to bring to that. I also find that if I have enough relationship with them and they know I really care about them and I want the best for them, they'll come back to that next meeting with a different heart, and I'll come back to that next meeting with a different heart, and we'll figure this out together. And it doesn't always end perfectly, but we're gonna collaborate on it, and we're gonna try to do this peacefully.
Thank you, Rick. All right, 2 more questions. This is a really good one. How do you go about approaching someone you are forgiving for an injustice done to you and confronting them with that injustice and telling them that you forgive them?
If somebody doesn't feel like they've done anything for you to forgive, this might be a little bit of a strange conversation. I get that. That actually occurred to me with that man that I called, because it maybe is a bit presumptuous for me to say, hey, I'll forgive you. That implies, well, you did something I need to forgive you for. And for me, I knew in the moment, there's also a place for me to say, and I did, please forgive me for anything and everything I said or did that hurt you. And I can't emphasize this enough. Even as I was preparing to make that phone call, the Lord was reminding me, you cannot dredge up, even mention the original problem. The second I say we start trying to do that, what happens is you raise your fists a little bit. And I think the picture the Lord gave me was walk up to that person with my hands behind my back, clasped. I'm in a posture of, I don't remember why we got to this place. Please forgive me. And by the way, you have my complete forgiveness. I have nothing in my heart but love for you. Now, I will say, it's important to understand that just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you're going to continue necessarily in that relationship. Remember, giving forgiveness is for you. It's releasing your heart. What happens on the other side of that is between them and the Lord. And I was prepared for people to say, I don't forgive you, or for people to not accept my complete forgiveness. It was for me that I should do that, for my heart. Now, my posture's right, and I have had no one didn't go, wow, thank you for that. And I've had no one didn't say, you're forgiven. I forgive you. And most of those ended in an embrace, and we're gonna go forward. We don't have to have a lot of, in some cases, I might not have more dealings or more relationship with them, but I don't have any more of that in my heart. I want my heart to be empty of that stuff all the time from the past. And as I go forward, I want to keep it empty. I want to maintain that, not pick up offenses. As Paul said in New Testament a bunch, don't pick up an offense. Don't be offended. Don't hold those things in your heart.
Really powerful. Thank you, Rick. Okay, last question. And based on who our audience is, we got a lot of data analytical driven people, and they are wanting to know, do you have any data on how this type of relational leadership impacts your business?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that, boy, I didn't have a vision for what this business is today. My vision for this business was much smaller back in 1992 than what it is, than what has happened. And I think that one big data point is that it is just incredibly bigger and richer and better than I could have ever imagined. And I believe this is the way that it happened. I think that people who really are loved well and cared for do amazing things. They stand up, they step up. Does making a man a knight make him a better fighter? It does. When you give 40 and you really love people and you really take care of them, and you raise people up with no agenda for you. The agenda is, I want the best for you. And if that means that you stay, that's awesome. If it means that I'm preparing you for something else, that just is powerful. And it's going to change everything. I know that I have much joy in the last years of my career with this company. I have a lot of friends, and a lot of them work for us. My very best friends are the people that I lead with and work with every day. And it's rich and powerful, and God does much through us. We are blessed with just amazing results. And so I don't know how to say it otherwise, but that's the truth of it.
Fruit is data, and you just said a lot of fruit, so that's great. Thank you, Rick. Hey guys, we want to find out what you would like Rick to talk on next month for our webinar. So we have just put up a poll, and we're going to do some live voting right now. So you can click on if you would like the first category, which is step 1 in kingdom leadership. If you would like to hear him talk about selection versus hiring, or how to develop everyone. So we're going to let that continue for a few more seconds. We got almost 60% of everyone has voted. So as you're voting, keep voting, and we'll put that on. Any of the questions that we did not get to, we will cover those in our blog that is going to be coming out in the upcoming weeks. If you say, I'm not on your blog, then you can go to our website, kingdomatwork.com, and you can sign up for that. It'll come straight to your inbox, and you will be receiving this afternoon an email with the August or for the webinar for September, and also how to register for that. And if you would like to come to our next workshop, that is going to be in February, because our October workshop, we sold out, which is a great thing. So our next workshop, we are giving you $50 off per ticket. This is valid for the next 48 hours because you are our friends. You joined us on this webinar. So if that is something you would like to take part in, you can scan that QR code, and we will get you signed up for the February workshop. Remember, this workshop, any of our Kingdom at Work leadership workshops, are for CEOs and business owners. We would love for you to bring your team, but that is who the Lord has asked us to minister to. So it looks like for the poll that we are going to be talking about developing everyone and what that looks like. And so we will hit on that in September. We appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for attending. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good day.